Okay, this is another example where you have a data of stock 1 and stock 2 of uh, different years, like starting from 2015 to 20. We have a stock A as stock A or stock B, you can call it stock 1 or stock 2, uh, and having annual returns. Or how we can calculate that annual return, you are a bit familiar about it while using capital asset pricing model or holding period return. Or even if you have monthly data, you can convert it into the annual return. In last discussion, I told you, or even I gave you that formulas. Now, asset 1 is having 40% contribution and asset 2 is having 60% contribution in the total portfolio. Now we will calculate how we can calculate the expected return of a portfolio. Just see this, it's a simple formula. I'm going to repeat it, is equal to return of a stock 1 multiplied by the weight of stock 1 plus return of a stock 2 multiplied by weight of stock 2. Now do remember the stock 1, the weight of stock 1 and stock 2 will be fixed for the whole, the rest of the years as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select a 40% value column and then press F4. F4 से क्या हो रहा है कि इस सेल को मैं फ्रीज कर रहा हूँ because I will use that cell in the rest of my calculation. Same for C1. Select and press F4, and after that just press enter. That 16% is my portfolio return. Now drag it down, I will calculate, drag it down, I will calculate the expected portfolio return. Just a second please. Okay, now these are the expected returns of a portfolios. Expected return of portfolio for the year of 2015, for 16, for 17 and 18, and so on and so forth. Now, how we can calculate the expected return of a portfolio while considering all the years? It's very simple, just taking average, just taking average of expected portfolio, you will get a single value of portfolio return throughout the investment years, that is 8%. Now there is another method of calculating portfolio return. First, if you calculate asset 1 return, that is taking average of stock 1 return and taking average of stock 2 return. Now what you need to do, consider return and its weight. Stock 2 return 10% and its weight 60%. Now just see, 5% multiplied by 40% plus 10% multiplied by 60%. So that is 8% as well. So you can follow the both methods even to calculate your portfolio returns. Now using different methods, like for variance, just apply is equal to variance of sample. Just select the column, you will calculate a variance of stock 1 and then variance of stock 2. For standard deviation, just taking a square root of variance, or that 22.36 is a percentage, 22.36% standard deviation is there in stock 1 and 32.25% standard deviation is there in stock 2. Now calculating a correlation is very simple, is equal to select column 1 comma column 2, press enter. that is a correlation. And covariance again is equal to covariance formula, select return of stock 1, comma, return of stock 2, press enter, that is your covariance. Now, a last step is to calculate standard deviation of a portfolio. Here we have calculated standard deviation of individual stock. Now we will calculate standard deviation of a portfolio. Now here we have portfolio expected returns. The same way as we have used that stock returns to calculate standard deviation of a stock, in the same way we will use expected return of a portfolios, expected return of a portfolios to calculate standard deviation of a portfolio. Just apply it is equal to standard deviation or select expected return portfolio column, and you will get 26% standard deviation there. Now there is another method of calculating standard deviation, and where that method comes from, just I will show you again the slide, this one. Now I will apply that formula of modern portfolio theory that was introduced by and the famous portfolio scientist, that is your Sharp ratio was introduced by Mr. Sharp, and that matter I just forget the name of that scientist. That is the scientist who was introduced our portfolio theory. I will let you know later. Uh, so that 60% calculation is coming from that model that is called Marquis model. I remember the name, that is Marquis model. Marquis introduced that portfolio theory, and now we will apply that Marquis model to calculate the standard deviation. Now see, I'm going to repeat the whole formula here, starting double dot, because the first one I will close at the end of that formula. Standard deviation of stock 1 multiplied by a weight of stock 1, closing bracket and taking a square, plus start standard deviation of stock 2 along with the multiplication of weight stock 2, then taking a square, then plus 2 multiply by standard deviation multiplied by standard deviation of stock 2 multiplied by weight of stock 1 multiplied by weight of stock 2 and multiplied by correlation between the stock, that is correlation. And now I'm going to close that bracket and taking a square root. Zero point 0.5 means, oh sorry, zero point 0.5 means a square root. Yes, enter. You can see that that is 26%. This is the same as we have calculated by using portfolio returns. If you don't know the portfolio returns, if you have a time taking calculation to calculate expected return of a portfolio, then you can simply apply that formula to calculate your standard deviations. Now you remember what we have done right now: the return of portfolio, standard deviation of portfolio, variance of portfolio, correlation and covariance of a portfolio calculations. And now if you have any questions, then this is the right time to ask.